Hi, it's Chickenbone John here again, and welcome to another episode of making a cigar box guitar. And we are nearly there. If you've been following this series, you'll have just wired up your guitar. So really all we need to do now is to screw the thing together, put some strings on it, and we're ready to go. Let's get on with it. Here's our guitar all wired as per the last episode, and if you watched, you'll recall that we didn't actually solder this with the jack socket in the guitar. So all we need to do is just take off the nut and the washer and pop that through the little plate we've got here. Put the nut and washer back on, and we're just going to tighten it up. It's a 13mm spanner on these nitric jacks. Don't use a pair of pliers because you'll slip, you'll chew this up. Make sure you hold the jack socket so it's not going to spin and pull your wires out. You don't need it super tight. So that's it, ready to go back together again. So when you close it down, just be careful that you don't trap any of these wires either between the body and the neck or between the box and the top as it goes down. So with this, as you can see, it needs a little shuffle to get that overlap on, and that's it, that's done. So to stop this flopping about, I'm just going to screw the top down. I never glue these things shut, and I never glue the necks in. The reason is it's always a lot easier to repair them and fix them. The electrics may not last the life of the guitar, or something might wear out, or it might get a knock and damage your solder joint. So we just screw them together. Now, to make sure it's not going to rattle, I'm also going to put a couple of screws in here. That's obviously just had a little nail in there when it came out of the factory. I'm just going to take a 1.5mm bit and just drill here and go into the side of the guitar. You do need to be accurate, and you don't want to be splitting the side of the box. That's just enough to give that a bit of purchase. It helps at this stage because the top won't be flopping around, and the string tension, the string pressure will hold this thing closed, but you're less likely to get any sort of buzzers from vibrations if you just put a couple of screws in the top of the guitar. There we go, we're all closed up. Now before I do anything else, I'm just going to test again to make sure my volume's working and my tones are working, so I've not disturbed anything when I've put that together. It saves a lot of hassle if you do that. Right, we're going to fix the neck into the box. Really simple. I'm just going to put a couple of screws through here. As I say, I'm not going to glue it because it just makes repair work and the rest of it that much easier. So I'm just going to mark the center of the box. We've got blocks in here to screw to, so I'm just going to mark the center of the box. So I'm 17 centimeters, so I'm 8.5, and I'm going to go about there. Same at the other end. As well as measuring, I always eyeball it because you might have put this in a millimetre or two out, so it's nice to get it dead centre. That's it. And then I'm going to put a 3mm pilot hole through this. Somebody did ask on the last video why I didn't use a pillar drill, or didn't I use them? It's a lot easier and safer. Well, yes it is, but not everybody has got or wants a bench drill or pillar drill. So we're just going to keep that nice and vertical and go through the block and go well in to the box. When you do this, do make sure you've got the drill set up so you're not going to drill through the heel and out the other side. See, there's no way I'm going to do that because there's not enough drill showing. So again, keeping it as perpendicular as we can. So yeah, as I say, if you have got a drill press or a pillar drill, they are great, much more accurate than using a hand drill. But as I say, not everybody has one or wants one. And then we're going to drill a slightly larger hole. I think that's is that about a 5mm or a 4.5, just through the packing block, so that the screw can drop in there. And to fix it, I'm using 1¼ inch by number 8 screws and an ordinary nickel plated cup washer. You can get fancier screw ferrules, which we use on some of our guitars, and what we used to like to do is just to countersink them in a little bit. They're a nice chunky cast sort of thing, but these work perfectly good. Put a little bit of wax on your screw, and repeat that. As I say, this I like this. It's I just get this from the local hardware store. It says beeswax. I'm sure it's not. It smells it. It does smell it, but I'm sure it's not pure beeswax. Not at about 150 a block. There's probably a paraffin in, but it's a nice sticky sort of wax. So I'm just going to put those in. Just until you don't need to do it too tight. You don't want to be stripping that out. It's just enough to hold that in place. So as I say, that's done. So we've got our guitar together. No movement. This is all nicely fitting. So what we need to do now is put some strings on it. Okay, what we need to do now is put some strings on it, and we're going to be using these, which are our own brand Zilpha strings, named after my daughter Anne Zilpha. These are a balanced tension, so you get the same tension across all 3 strings. You can split a regular pack of guitar strings, but because you might be using something that would be in the A position, you're tuning it down to a G, you may find that a little loose. So these are calculated to give you a nice strong tension. 46, 30, 22. It's fairly heavy, but I think if you're using a slide, you need something with some weight to it that's going to resist the slide pressing the strings down onto the frets. Anyway, let's get on. So here we've got the 3 strings. We'll start with the heaviest one, which is the 46. Be careful when you uncoil them. You know, it's not a bad idea to wear safety specs. You don't want that pointy end flying out and poking you in the eye, and be careful not to kink the string. Okay, so that's that. I'll just reverse this round so you can see what we're doing. The strings are going to be passing through these ferrules. So you're going to have your heavy string, the middle string, which goes in the middle, and the lighter string here. Make sure we get this in the correct position, with the guitar in the right orientation. The heaviest string is going to be the one that's closest to you. The lightest string is going to be the one nearest the floor. So we turn it over, remembering that it's this one we want to get it through. That should simply push through, pull that through, and make sure this ball end is seated. If you've used a slightly small rivet, you might need to drill it out if you're using a fat bottom string. Okay, so that's going to go onto here. We'll turn round so we can see how we do this bit. This string is going to go to this machine head. We keep them as straight a line as possible. So if I find where my hole is in the string post, then I'm going to pull that so that's taut, and then I'm going to back it off about an inch, 2.5 centimeters. So I'm going to come back here, and then I'm going to start winding, and I will start winding this clockwise. And the important thing is we want to be wrapping the string down the post. Now the first turn I'm going to take over the top of the wire, so over the top of the string, like you see what's happening there. I'm just going over the top of the string, and then I'm pushing down with my thumb so that now it goes underneath. That will lock it nicely. I'm just pulling that out of the way. Be careful that you don't poke yourself with the end of the string, so keep your eyes well out of the way. So as you see, I'm pressing down with my thumb here, and I'm just taking the tension out because I've not got this nut in yet. So I'm about right. Then I'm going to go in with my other string on here, the light one, which is in this case is a 22 gauge. Again, be careful when you uncoil them that you don't poke yourself nor do you kink the string. We'll come back here, so it's going to go in this position. We'll turn that over so you can see where we're going to go, and again I'm just going to thread it in there, and if we've drilled it correctly, a little bit of wiggling and it's come through. Pull it. Be careful you know where that string end is. It's useful to think of this as like a needle and thread, so keep that in your hand. And then we pull till the ball end is seated against your string ferrule. I'll flip the guitar around again. It's the reverse of what I did on this. So let's do that again. Pass the string through the hole in the string post, back it off about an inch, 2.5 centimeters. I'm just going to bend that up out of the way, and then we go with this. I'm going clockwise again, and if you see what I'm doing, I'm wrapping it so it goes over that string that's passed through. Then I press down, and that's going to wrap underneath. You see what I'm doing here with my finger? I'm holding that down so the string is going to wrap down the post. It helps get an angle, what's called a break angle, over where the nut's going to be. So I'm just taking the slack on there. We can put the bolt in, and for this it's just a 5mm machine screw that's been pre-slotted. I can just put a little bit more tension on so it's not flapping about, and then all I'm left to do is my middle string. Again, careful when you uncoil it, don't poke your eye or your finger or kink the string. We'll come back here, and of course There's only one place left to go now, and that's the middle. Same routine. Needle and thread. That's gone through perfectly. I'm keeping my hand on the other end so I know where it is, and make sure again the ball end comes into contact there. Let's flip it round, and we go into this machine head. Your machine head configuration may be differently. You might have got one here, one here, and one here. Goes through the string post. Take the slack out of the string and then just back it off an inch. This time, let's get these strings out of the way. We're going to be winding anti-clockwise, so I'll let the first wind go over the string, and then I press down with my finger. I'm just going to pull that out of the way, and then it's going to wrap neatly down the post. Just keeping that finger pressure on there to make sure it's wrapping down the post, and that's going to give you a couple, about 2.5 full turns. That's all you need. Any less than that and it can slip. Any more and it's just going to get baggy and stretch around here and get unsettled. I don't go for, some people will turn these back through the holes in the posts and almost tie them on. It's a bad idea. You don't need to do it, and when you come to change your strings it makes it difficult. So we'll just cut these off. Just leave, there's a few millimeters showing. Just be careful you don't snip through the other string when you do that. Okay, and then there's one thing left to do here. Just going to back that off. To stop that middle string from skipping around, because it's got the longest travel, whichever's got, usually you'll find whatever's got the longest travel, whether it's here or you might have got one up here, and it's the one in the middle. You want to just fix it. I'm just going to put a screw in here, so I'm just tensioning the string so it's the right position in the middle of the nut, and I'm just going to drill a pilot hole in here. Make sure you're not drilling against a string because those windings are delicate, and make sure you don't drill through your headstock. And for this I'm just going to use a dome headed screw, and I've got a little plastic bushing which sort of makes it look neat, and sort of spaces it off the top of the headstock. It's not absolutely necessary, that, but the screw is. So you just put that in. I would advise keep that away, because I say the windings are very delicate, and you want the least amount of contact with that screw as possible until you've got the thing tuned up. Okay, that's our strings installed. That's going to go like that. We've got one other component to put in here, the vital thing, which is the bridge. Now, because the way that we've wired this, we've just earthed one string, so what we really need is a bridge, something like that, that's got, this is a piece of fret wire. Some people might use a bolt, but something that will conduct across all three strings. I'm going to be using one of these, and this, if you see, it's got the fret wire saddle, and it's also got a raised section at the back with slots cut in it to receive the strings to stop them skipping about. Let's put one of these in. This is just a trial fit to see where we are, and this is going to be roughly in place. This is approximately in place, but we're going to check from measuring from the middle of the bolt that we use for the nut to the saddle, and we want 25 and a half inches. I'll just back that off a wee bit. When you are measuring from the nut, make sure you measure from the center of that bolt. If you're using a bolt, that's where the string's riding on it, so it needs to be the center. If you're using a conventional bone nut, obviously it's going to be the edge or a 0 fret. So we've got this approximately in the right position. The next crucial thing to have a look at is the action. The action is the height of the strings above the fretboard. Now on this one, if you can see that, that's rather high. It's too high for what I like, and it's normal to measure over the 12th fret. I don't know if we can pick that up, and I've got over 3 millimeters there. That's rather too high. So what I want to do is to have a lower bridge than this. What we sometimes do is we will have a series of bridges in 1 millimeter increments. It's a really handy thing to have in your workbox. Then you can just slip these bridges in, find the action that suits, and then make a bridge to fit. Let's try a different one. You just be careful you don't mark the top when you're doing this. We'll try a lower bridge. I suspect this may be a little low. Let's have a look. I'm not sure. Okay, I don't know if you can see that, but our action here is about 2 millimeters. That's probably as low as you want it. Okay, we'll double check the position of the bridge because I've been shifting that about. So I'm going to go from the center of my nut to the saddle. And I've got 25 and a half inches, which is what I want. Now this scale length from the nut to the bridge saddle, generally speaking, it's going to be a little bit longer than the theoretical length, because when you press down on a string, you're actually bending it and raising the tension. So I'll just move it back maybe just a couple of millimeters, and it's often more affected on the bass string, so we move that back a tiny bit. So what we need to do now, bring it to tension, put it in tune, and then check the action. If it's rattling, we may have got a high fret, or it may well be that we've just got the whole thing too low. So let's do that. For this, I've done a whole video on this before, but I find it's useful to tune to a note. Here on my amplifier, I've actually got a tuning note. It's a G. It's actually, you can set it as A flat, or A double flat, which is G. Okay. So yeah, the other way of doing this is with a good old-fashioned tuning fork. You just strike it, and you've got a note. So I'm doing that by ear. Word of warning though, with tuning forks, it's difficult to get a G tuning fork. The standard note is usually an A. The other way is of course to use one of these, a headstock tuner. We've tried quite a few. This is the one we sell. I think they're a £5. You just press the button. You want C on here. If you scroll through this, it'll go C, which is chromatic, G for guitar, B for bass, V for violin, and U for ukulele. C on here means chromatic. It'll pick up any note. So there, got my G, There we've got green. You need to be very careful with these because it's easy to tune an octave above what you want. So I'm going to tune the middle string. We get the note at the 7th fret. Okay. And the G will be an octave above here. There we go. There we go. So we're in tune now. The only things we've got to check now is, do the electrics work? Okay, plug into the Roland microcube, knock the effects off. That all seems to be working fine. There's my volume. And there's my tone working. Just a couple of things to watch here. Now we've got the whole thing together. Height of the strings above the pickup. Yeah, your pickup should be round about the same height as your fretboard, or maybe a little bit less, because you do not want the strings to be hitting it. So that's about fine. You could raise it a little bit, but I think you might even start hitting it with your pick if you're playing in that area. Also, just watch the position of your bridge. You might need to, you know, you might have to shuffle this bridge around a little bit to get it in tune. So with these chicken head knobs, you can see they're clearing it, but you might want to just shave the edges of the bridge back so you're not going to hit them. And the last thing we need to do is to check the action to see if it's buzzing anywhere. This is as low as I think I would want to get it. Check it fret by fret. That's okay, yeah? Do that on each string. Let the string ring, don't go too fast. Tiny little buzz there, I think. Tiny buzz. I've got a buzz there. Okay, so where did I have the buzzers? The tiniest of buzz at the 12th fret. And here at the 14th, I think. Okay. Let's solve them. This is the first course of action on this. Okay, what can we do about this? We didn't dress these frets. We didn't level them. We checked them with a straight edge and a fret rocker when we put them in. Now you could dress the frets by sanding them or putting an oil stone, and then you have to reprofile them and polish them. But I think a little light tap it's got rid of the buzz. It's just knocked that in probably 1/1000th of an inch, but just make sure you're not getting a buzz on the next one up now. Tiny bit, so let's, and we're getting a buzz there. Gone away. just pulled it out of tune there because when I was fiddling about with a fret hammer. So that's a sort of quick and dirty way of getting rid of a buzz. But if you just, that's probably, as I say, maybe just 1/1000 of an inch. You do need to be very careful when if you are tapping a slightly high fret down, that you don't overdo it so that you get a buzz on the next one. So that's our guitar pretty well sorted. You might want to raise the bridge if that's a little bit low. Say 2mm action there. That's sort of ordinary guitar height. If you're playing slide, you might want it slightly higher, but not much. You might only want it 1/2 millimeter higher, no more than 1 millimeter. Now here's the thing, we usually measure on the 12th fret, which is halfway down the fretboard. So if you want to raise this 1/2 millimeter here, you need to raise the bridge twice that, 1 millimeter. So if you want to raise this a lot by 1 millimeter, you need a 2 millimeter taller bridge, and vice versa. If you want to bring the action down by 1/2 millimeter, you'll need to take a full millimeter off at the bridge. Okay, congratulations for making it so far, and you should have a guitar that's looking and sounding something like this. Thanks for watching. Have fun, make more guitars. Check us out on www.chickenbonejohn.com, and why not subscribe for more information. We've done this basic series on how to make a guitar. We'll be doing some more on advanced wiring, troubleshooting, tools, and how to play. So if you hit the subscribe, you'll get notified when there's more new stuff coming. Thank you very much for your support. Bye for now.